Well, welcome into My Dogs Are Barking on MPW Digital. My name is Landon. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of the show where we will be talking about the most recent entrance into the transfer portal for Mississippi State. But this one's a little unique. This is a guy that did not even get to campus yet, but transferred to Mississippi State last Thursday. And it's just like I always think of that meme from The Simpsons where the guy walks in the house, puts his hat on the coat rack, turns right back around, grabs his hat, and leaves out the door. It's kind of that kind of deal. Sam Walters, who was the former transfer from Michigan and Alabama, transferred to Mississippi State and then said, I think not, and decided to go to SMU. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. And just kind of talk about where State needs to go in the transfer portal for Mississippi State basketball. And then we'll end the show by talking about as much as you can as the spring practices have wrapped up for Mississippi State football, what you can pull out of that, and what are some things we can look at, especially after the spring game lasted. And one of those things we'll talk about is Kamario Taylor, which we mentioned before the spring game started. The number one thing people would talk about, we predicted, would be Kamario Taylor and how they're going to be chanting for him to be QB1, or if there's a backup to Blake Shapen, it's definitely Kamario Taylor and not Croman Hawk. We'll see, but that is something that we predicted before the game, and it looks like that's what's happening. So anyway, we will get to all that in just a moment. But before we do, we want to let you know that My Dogs Are Barking, or MyDawgsPod, is brought to you in part by Arpa's Coffee Bar. They're in Starkville, in the heart of the Cotton District. Arpa's, Jose and his team will hook you up. Arpa's is a Venezuelan owned and has amazing and unique food, but also, Venezuelan coffee. Like they're all about doing things differently in Arpa's, but it's also in the heart of the Cotton District. It's in the most happening part of town. Do old people only say happening? Can I say happening? It's in the most happening part of town there in the Cotton District, and that is true. And if you're coming out to the Starkville Derby here in a couple of weeks, make sure you go by Arpa's. And hey, when you're there, we'll save you some money. Make sure you mention, hey, I love that 15% off discount for being a My Dogs Are Barking listener, and Jose and his team will hook you up, get 15% off of that. And guess what? If you go the next day or the next day or the next day, you can still get that same discount, 15% every single time, just for being a listener. Whoa, camera's going crazy. Just for being a listener of the show. So we thank you guys so much, as always, for listening to us. But hey, all these guys entering into the portal and all these guys trying to get paid. Boogie Flan from Arkansas just entered the portal, which is kind of, I don't think people saw that coming. He's probably looking for an even bigger payday somehow. He's looking, to get rich. But we got to ask ourselves, what does it mean to be rich? Maybe it's less about reaching a magic number and more about discovering the magic in life. Skip Langley is your Batesville, Mississippi, Edward Jones financial advisor, serving clients in the area and across the state. Count on him for financial strategies that can help you support a life you love, because the key to being rich is knowing what counts. So contact him today at 662-563-9843, and together you can find your rich. Edward Jones, member SIPC. All right, well, welcome in, and it's so glad that you guys are here. One of the things we'll also talk about towards the end of the show, and we'll bring up now, and that is in May we're going to be starting back our fall football preview series. I think we called it our way too early fall football preview series, where we will spend we will interview one person per team that Mississippi State is facing this fall. So we'll look at each opponent on Mississippi State's schedule, and we'll interview someone that is a beat writer or someone covering that particular team. We did in the offseason last year, and it was a whole lot of fun. We'll kind of get them to kind of predict a way too early prediction of how this, if the headline was Mississippi State beats so-and-so, why would that be? If State loses, why would that be? Just kind of a fun deal, just kind of lead us up to the summer, because right now, there's just not a lot of play. I would love to talk NBA playoffs if there was a need for that, but I know it's not as popular as other things are. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about kind of what State's team is looking like, because by then it'll be a little bit more solidified that the portal will close, and it'll be okay. This is what this team looks like. This is who's going to be here. So looking forward to that. But first, I do want to mention what we talked about in the opening, and that is for the fourth spot, Sam Walters entered the portal. He had transferred to Mississippi State on Thursday. Announced he's transferring there from Michigan, and then hopped right on back out of the portal today and decided to go to SMU. And, someone was asking me, like, why would he do this? Like, what's the point? Is SMU that much better of a destination? I was just thinking, SMU allegedly has got a huge amount of NIL for football and basketball. And I mean, obviously, where they're located is a big part of that. They're there in the Dallas metro area, a lot of cash to throw around. And now that you can do so legally, and then also entering into the Big 12, you have a little bit of an easier schedule and a bigger paycheck potentially. Kind of a no-brainer. And also, I mean, I don't know if there's any sort of validity or truth to the fact that he wanted to start and wanted some sort of guarantee to that. I don't know, but I do know with Encore and Core. I'm never going to get that name right. From Kansas State, the transfer, the 6'9" transfer that transferred here from Kansas State was at Samford before that, where he averaged 16 points a game. He looks like he's going to play the 4 spot unless State gets somebody else, big in the portal or any of these two guys. Maybe Jamarion Fleming just plays really, really well and is able to start there. It looks like Accor is going to be able to be the starter. So I don't know if that's the main reason, but it's another reason why this time in college football or college football and basketball is just it's a little frustrating from the fans' perspective, because you got to remember, at the end of the day, like, I get it, like, these people are trying to make money, all these things. Well, none of that happens anyway if fans don't come to games and fans do not generate revenue for the team. And if you don't know any of the players, or you're it's harder to get attached to a player and keep rooting for them and kind of build them up whenever they're here, kind of one and done. It was so funny. Someone had tweeted something out about Nico leaving Tennessee to go to UCLA and said that UCLA's got their quarterback for the future. Man, if Nico's there beyond one season, I'll be shocked. And again, look, you want guys to have the best opportunity for themselves, and obviously that's what Sam is trying to do. He might end up getting a lot more playing time, a lot more NIL. Like, it makes sense business wise, but it's hard for fans. Fans eventually are going to get disconnected because you can't get excited about high school recruiting anymore. High school recruiting used to be get so many eyeballs, but now even if you do end up landing the guy, well, he might leave after a season. In this instance, he might leave in 6 days. You'd have no sort of guarantee, and it gets really old after a little while, and does not leave a lot of room for excitement, because you're going, man, what is going to happen? What's going to happen next? Like, what's going to be the kind of the path for if this guy's going to even stick around. So Sam Walters is there, which makes me think that Mississippi State is now in the market for a 2-guard and a 4-guard. I think the center, they're fine. If they could find another forward, they'd be fine. I don't know if Amir Ali is your starting starting shooting guard. I don't think so. Unless he just dramatically improves. I think he's a very nice depth piece, because at his size, he can go play the 2 or the 3. But he's not. You need someone to complement Hubbard to be able to shoot and score. So I would think that they're looking for another 2, and they're looking for a 4. And this is going to be a team that, statistically speaking, like, can shoot a little bit better than the one beforehand. I mean, you never know. I get that. But and Core can shoot the 3, not as well as Sam Walters can. I think that's kind of a bummer. But Sam Walters is not the defensive type of player that I think Chris Jans would count on, but he can shoot really well. He can score well. And State, ran into trouble on the defensive side of the ball last season. Man, just gave up so many points per game as opposed to years beforehand. So, yeah, you do kind of think about, are they going to look for another stretch 4? Is Encore going to be kind of as much as you go to a stretch 4 for them? Looking forward to see where they go there in the portal. Of course, the portal did close. I think it closes tomorrow officially. But that doesn't mean, if you're in the portal, doesn't mean you can't commit to places. It just means that you cannot officially just go ahead and enter again. So we'll see where that goes from there. Honestly, I will say I'm a little surprised that Gay Chol is sticking around Starkville. I had a feeling that he was going to be gone from the team, but it looks like he's going to be sticking around to hopefully kind of develop as a kind of another depth piece, probably at the 5 position. But hey, State can use all they need. Probably be the backup. Probably be backing up T. Bartlett. I imagine T. Bartlett will get the nod coming off the bench whenever Quincy Ballard comes out of the game. But we'll evaluate that as it goes forward. And then again, as I mentioned, Boogie Flan entered the portal. was it PJ Haggerty is in the portal from Memphis. I mean, there's some big time players that are in the portal right now that are going to command a ton of cash. And I'm not going to lie. When you kind of evaluate who is going, who's going where, and kind of what this team looks like, both the teams in the state are doing pretty decent in the portal game. And Ole Miss has been, has done okay, but it seems like their line is in the water for some bigger fish, and we'll see if they bite or not. But they have their line out in the water for some. If they land some of these guys, they land Haggerty. That's big time. And Duke Miles it doesn't have anything to do with Ole Miss. I just thought it was interesting. Duke Miles was the transfer point guard from Oklahoma. He committed to Texas A&M today. A guy that Mississippi State had previously looked at. Obviously, you have Jabari McGee. Josh Hubbard is still going through with the draft process to see if that's what he wants to do to go out. I expect him fully to be back. But you never know. I expected DJ Stewart to be back from Mississippi State, and he stayed in the draft, and that was it. I always wonder what that team would have been like, because I think that was the 2019 team, if I'm not mistaken. So that would have been the team that had Quindary Witherspoon, Reggie Perry, Iverson Molinar, and it would have had DJ Stewart coming back for another season, along with some and then Tyson Carter as well. So that was a pretty solid team. I always wondered what that team would have been like had those guys all stuck around for a little bit longer. So we'll continue to evaluate what that looks like for Mississippi State in the transfer portal. Again, any news that we get, we'll put out on our Twitter, just at MyDawgsPod, to be able to keep up with things that way. But we are going to shift our focus from here to football and talk about spring practice finishing up and the players, the portal reopening, unfortunately, and kind of what I think people are kind of left with at this moment when it comes to Jeff Lebby and his team. So we'll look at all that stuff and more whenever we come back after these messages from MPW Digital. So thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be right back. You're listening to My Dogs Are Barking on MPW Digital.
All MPW Digital podcasts are brought to you by our friends at Parish Brewing Company, located in the heart of Cajun country in Broussard, Louisiana. Parish Brewing Company's simple goal is to make awesome craft brewed beer, and they do it remarkably well. The doctor is introducing their new go-to IPA, Dr. Juice. It's a highly crushable juice bomb, dry hopped with a blend of their favorite hand-selected hops from the Yakima Valley in Washington. Dr. Juice's drinkability is sneaky good, considering it clocks in at 6% ABV. The pour glows a rich cantaloupe hue with a thick frosted haze, soft mouthfeel, an aroma and taste that's full of passion fruit, papaya, and blood orange, making it drink like a glass of freshly squeezed juice. They also have Ghost in the Machine. It's a double IPA brewed with obscene quantities of hand-selected Citra hops from Yakima Valley. Expect pungent grapefruit flavors and aromas, tropical fruit, less harsh bitterness than most IPAs. Again, it's Parish Brewing Company. Wherever you get your beer, check out Parish. Make sure that you look for them, because any beer that you get from Parish is going to be absolutely outstanding. Thank you from MPW Digital. We're brought to you by Easy Hemp Company. Easy is a hemp-infused sparkling water. It's a guilt-free alcohol alternative, a natural way to relax and unwind. It's all natural. Made with real fruit, no added sugar, low calories, gluten-free. One 12-ounce can of Easy has 3 milligrams of THC. With Easy, it's easy to avoid the gummy scare and control your experience. So change the can, not the ritual. It's easy. Visit EasyHempCo.com to view the Easy Finder to find Easy near you. Easy is Farm Bill compliant with hemp derived from THC, CBD extracts. Easy is for people 21 and older. Enjoy responsibly.
Was played out for Mississippi State, in which, not every team had a spring game. Alabama just did a practice, and many other teams just practiced. Almost, I don't think there's only one team that actually had the game televised, and it was not Mississippi State. So it is kind of hard to follow along and say, okay, well, what can we find out about, the spring game if you were not actually there? I think the one thing that people came away with, if there's anything to write home about and say, okay, what's one takeaway, is actually something that we predicted. And that is that we really thought that Mississippi State had an opportunity to have fans excited about Kamario Taylor. That was the first thing we mentioned. We said, look, out of everything that could be talked about, out of everything that could be discussed, what will fans be coming away with? And it's Kamario Taylor, and that's exactly what happened. He looks the part, and people are already talking about, with Blake Shapen last year, before he got hurt. You really weren't doing anything anyway. So why not go ahead and roll out the true freshman and just see what you have? And I do understand that viewpoint of look, just see what you can do, because what do you really have to lose? Again, I get that. It's not that doesn't make sense. I understand fully. But the problem is in those games, Mississippi State did not have much of a running game. I mean, if State was able to run the ball versus Arizona State, they win that game. And Arizona State was a playoff team. But they lose 28-21. They were not able to get the ball rolling at all on the ground. And then Davon Booth, towards the end of the season, really started taking off. Then State has the addition of Fluff Bothwell in the addition. And then Colin Wilson, as a true freshman, is doing really well, on top of having Johnny Daniels, on top of these other guys that contributed last year. So State has a lot of running back depth right now that they did not have at the beginning of last season, or at least that did not have the experience. And it took Davon a little longer than I think people expected for him to get going. And anyway, people want to roll out with Kamario Taylor starting. And I would just say it's understandable, but Jeff Lebby's going to put out there who they need to play. And look, it will likely be Shapen to start, because Shapen has the experience. It's just Shapen, his play style kind of leads to him getting hurt. And you do kind of wonder, okay, why would Luke Kromenhoek be brought in, and why would we spend money on Luke Kromenhoek, former 5-star out of Florida State, if Kamario Taylor was going to be here? But that is, you can't fully trust that A, Blake Shapen's going to remain healthy the whole season, and B, Kamario Taylor is going to be as good as he is advertised at the moment. So you have to bring somebody in, and the more competition, the better. The best player will play. And Kamario Taylor, man, is it looks really good. I don't want to go overboard and say that. Yeah, I know. I'll go ahead and say this. I think Kamario Taylor is QB2 by the time fall rolls around. I think he's so talented. But to say he starts the season, I think is a little bit of an over exaggeration, because it's going to take a minute for him to understand. But he was an early enrollee, so like he's been around the offense now for a little while. I think State has got to, or Lebby has got to put the guy on the field who's gonna, and he knows who's gonna going to complement his team the rest of the way. And Shapen didn't make a ton of mistakes; like he does not turn the ball over a lot, but you have to worry about that when it comes to like a true freshman. And so we'll see how that goes. I'll tell you one part of that helps out Mississippi State is two parts. One, Aiden Williams really impressed in the game. Aiden Williams has a chance to be really good. I mentioned that I think Rashaan Evans is going to be able to lead this team in receiving, but I don't know, man. I mean, but Aiden Williams is probably the most talented on the team. I think because of the position that Evans plays, I think that's the reason why I'd say he gets the most catches and most yards. But Aiden Williams might be the big play guy that we wanted Kelly Akakari to be at UTEP last year. He was just kind of hurt and never really was able to get going really until the latter half of the season. And Rashaan Evans is going to have the opportunity to kind of play there in the slot. And so I think that's why he gives State a better opportunity to be able to get more catches that way. But Aiden Williams is certainly great having him as an option there. I think he's crazy talented. But the good news is Mississippi State lands Purdue transfer Jackson. Nope, did not say that correctly. But the Purdue offensive tackle that I'll be able to pronounce here in just a moment. Jaquan Bolden. There we go. Jaquan Bolden, the former Purdue transfer. He was a guy that, if you remember correctly, last year he was deciding between Purdue and Mississippi State. He chose Purdue, which is unfortunate. But Purdue was coming off of a good situation. But when he did last year, he did not play because he broke his hand, and so he has a chance to kind of get things started. But he hit it, so he took a medical redshirt last season because of the fact he broke his hand. So redshirt freshman, I don't think he's going to be starting at the left tackle, but I think he's got a real opportunity to be starting at the right tackle position. But he's huge. He's a really really massive human being. And I know State's going to be excited to be able to get a guy, like him to be able to come for the Bulldogs, to be able to play for the Bulldogs because they needed so much help on the offensive line this past season, and so getting a guy like that is certainly a plus. I was trying to look up and see where measurables are. Yeah, 6'6", 350 pounds. I'm sorry. I should not have said redshirt freshman. I forgot he was at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College before he got to Purdue. So I think this would be his redshirt junior year. No, he has technically 3 seasons to play. So State can get a lot out of him kind of going forward, but that is going to help out State a lot. Having the amount of receivers that State has to choose from is huge. I mean, you start going through Jerron Glover and Marcus Allen and Rashawn Evans and Aiden Williams and Jaden Mosley. Like there's and I'm sure I'm forgetting some speedster on the outside, but State has got a lot of talent out on the perimeter in the slot to choose from. And then on top of that, I mean, their running back room is one of the deepest rooms they've ever had. And here's the honest truth: if they want to be able to win and get to a bowl game, which I know almost seems impossible, they have to be able. State doesn't have the talent other teams have. They've got to be able to run the ball and sit on the clock and let it bleed in order for them to have a chance at some of these games. And so you're going to be leaning on those guys a whole lot. So looking forward to seeing how that goes. Again, make sure you pay close attention to MyDawgsPod on Twitter to be able to follow along. And very excited about the series we are starting in May. And very, very pumped. So you might be wondering, where is Mr. Austin? Austin's working a whole lot doing his night shift gig. So it's just been me for a little while, but looking forward to getting Austin back in here. But as always, thank you so much for listening to My Dogs Are Barking on MPW Digital. We'll holler at you